purpose for having a grading structure in a course is to communicate with students not only what will be assessed in the course, but how the scores earned on each of those assignments will influence their final grade of the course. So why do we do assessments? We do assessments for primarily two reasons. One is so that we can provide an opportunity for students to be able to demonstrate how they can apply the knowledge and the competencies and demonstrate the behaviors related to the values that we have mapped to this particular course. Through the students' performance on these assessments, we can determine or collect data and thus measure our learning objectives that we've set for each week in the course. And as a result, because our learning objectives will be aligned to our course outcomes, we are then also indirectly assessing students' achievement towards those course outcomes. A second reason we assess is to be able to determine how effective our course design is, as well as how effective our instructional delivery is. And this gives us an opportunity then to make changes to the course design if students aren't performing at a level that we think they should perform, and also to adjust our instructional delivery, perhaps going back and revisiting things that students didn't quite understand or aren't able to apply in the way that we expected. Developing a grading structure can be a difficult task. Keeping in mind that the purpose of the grading structure and these assignments that we include in the grading structure is to measure indirectly our course outcomes, we need to be really thoughtful about what assignments that we ask students to complete. In this one, I listed 3 different categories of assignments. First is participation, second is a grant proposal project, and a third is a networking opportunity. This would be a grading structure for a course on grant management. So I've also listed what assignments are associated with each of these categories. So since I want to have interactivity between the students and the instructor every single week in the term, I've assigned students to do a discussion board during 8 of the weeks, and I've required 2 virtual class meetings. I've also had identified 3 parts to this grant proposal project. And then once they have each of those 3 parts finished, they've received feedback from classmates and the instructor, they make revisions, and then they submit their final proposal application for the 4th assignment in the grant proposal. I also require students to do 2 networking activities. One is a case study analysis, and one is an interview with a client for whom they're developing this grant project. So that part, pretty simple to do, because I've thought about what my course outcomes are. I thought about an authentic way to organize the course, and I thought about how I can have students actively involved in applying the knowledge and the competencies that I mapped in the course in a way that they feel is authentic to what a person who in this field would be doing with that knowledge and those competencies. So the challenge is how do I assign points? In the past, people have approached this in many different ways. One way that they've approached it is by saying, I'm going to make the course with 1,000 points, and then they just start plopping in points then for all the different assignments. Probably they did this thinking that it would be easy for students to calculate their grade in the course, because they can just take the number of points they've accumulated out of 1,000, and they can then determine what their grade is. Since instructors are required to maintain their grade centers in Blackboard, Blackboard can do those calculations for students pretty easily. So you don't have to choose 1,000 points for the sake of helping students to be able to calculate their scores easily. Instead, I would choose one assignment that I can use as a basis for determining the points for all the other assignments in the course. Traditionally, discussion boards, or the interaction that students have with each other during the week, is worth 20 points. I have 8 of those in my course, therefore it's 160 points. So now knowing that I have 20 points designated as the points for each of those interactions each week, I can then think about how that relates to all of the other assignments in the course in terms of the amount of cognition that is required by that assignment, that is the amount of brain activity, the amount of brain work that's required, the thinking they have to do with that assignment, the amount of physical work that might be involved in completing that assignment, the amount of time that's involved in that assignment, and the relative importance that that assignment has with regards to the course outcomes. Those things that I think require more cognition, more physical work, more time, and or are more important, I believe, to the course, I would make those worth more points. in relation to the 20 points that I assigned to that discussion board. So for example, identifying a need, part 1 of this grant proposal project. I can think about what I really want students to do with that assignment. I think about in relation to doing a discussion board post, which would involve an initial post, replies, and a final reflection. If I say that's worth 20 points, how would I then determine the number of points that that part of that project would include? Well, I know that requires a lot more brain work, a lot more application of knowledge and competencies that they're acquiring in the course. I know that it requires more physical work because they have to go out and do various things in order to complete that assignment. I know it's going to take a lot more time for them to do that, and I believe that this grant proposal project is probably the most important part of the whole course, as it's the most authentic project that they're doing. So I'm going to make that worth 100 points, 5 times the amount that what a discussion board post and so forth would be. And I do that for the other assignments in my course also. I determine these points based on their relative degree of cognition, physical work, time, and importance as it is to that discussion board post they do in one of the weeks of the course. I can then add up my points and I come up with 650. I put in these percents here to kind of help me think about how the assignments relate to each other. I probably will not put this into the course because students need to know that that's 12.3% of the class or 15.4%. That's just for me to help think about the relationship these assignments have to each other as I'm determining these points. As you're building this grading structure, also keep in mind that we're developing 2 versions of this course, both the on-ground and the online version. So we'll have to be thoughtful in terms of the assignments that we put in here and their application to the on-ground version and the online. So for example, if I have students interacting with each other in an online course through discussion boards and virtual class meetings, I probably won't do those same things in the on-ground course, but I still want to have participation. So I have to redefine what that assignment would be for the on-ground. The other assignments in this course have direct application for both the on-ground and the online. Now, as you develop your first version of the grading structure in your tracking sheet, which if you scroll down here, you'll see in the tracking sheet that there's a place for you to put in your grading structure. We know that this will probably change a little bit as you work on your course, but at least it gives us a roadmap, if you will, for how you plan to assess student performance with regards to the learning objectives that you write each week, and then ultimately to the course outcomes that you've identified for the course.